नमस्कार. चर्चासत्राच्या दुसऱ्या सत्रात मी सर्व व्यासंगी वक्त्यांचे, रसिक श्रोत्यांचे आणि संगीतप्रेमी विद्यार्थ्यांचं मनपूर्वक स्वागत करते. आपण आता द्वितीय सत्राला सुरुवात करतो आहे. या सत्रामध्ये प्रथम डॉक्टर हेमंत देसाई आपल्याशी संवाद साधतील. डॉक्टर हेमंत देसाई हे पद्मभूषण विदुषी अन्नपूर्णा देवी यांचे ज्येष्ठ शिष्य आहेत. अन्नपूर्णा देवी यांच्याकडून त्यांनी पारंपरिक मैहर ध्रुपद शैलीमध्ये सतार वादनाचे धडे घेतले आहेत. तसंच अन्नपूर्णा देवींकडून त्यांनी सूरबहार या वाद्याचं देखील थोडंफार शिक्षण घेतलं आहे. अन्नपूर्णा देवी यांच्याकडे शिकण्यापूर्वी त्यांनी पंडित कार्तिक कुमार यांच्याकडे सतारवादनाचं शिक्षण घेतलं. तसंच बिनकार उस्ताद मोहम्मद खान आणि उस्ताद इम्रत खान यांच्याकडे आणि पंडित रविशंकर यांच्या मुंबईमधील किन्नर स्कूल ऑफ म्युझिक येथेही सतारवादनाचं शिक्षण घेतलं आहे. सुरुवातीच्या काळात त्यांनी श्रीमती नीलाताई नागपूरकर यांच्याकडे गायनाचंही प्रशिक्षण घेतलेलं आहे. त्यांनी इलेक्ट्रिकल इंजिनिअरिंग आणि कम्प्युटर सायन्समध्ये डॉक्टरेट मिळवलेली आहे. युनिव्हर्सिटी ऑफ कॅलिफोर्निया बर्कले येथे त्यांनी नियंत्रण सिद्धांत आणि गणित विषयाचा अभ्यास केला आहे. सध्या ते त्यांचा वेळ संगीत शिकवणं आणि IT क्षेत्रात सल्लागार म्हणून काम पाहणं यात व्यतीत करतात. आता ऐकूया डॉक्टर हेमंत देसाई यांना.
Right off the bat, I would like to thank Pandit Nityanandji, all the other trustees of Annapurna Devi Foundation, SNDT University Music Department, who have taken the pains to organize this wonderful session, I think. And thank you so much for inviting me to speak here. To begin with, there were some excellent presentations in the morning session. I mean, I have learnt a lot about Mayar Gharana just by sitting here in the morning session. And when Pandit Nityanandji first asked me to speak, I was not too keen on speaking. He asked me to speak on Mayar Gharana, and my response was that I really don't know too much about Mayar Gharana. If I say anything, I'd have to do research on it, and I'd do research using Google and other people. So I'd rather speak about something which I know about directly, direct knowledge. And he agreed that I can speak on what I had learned from Annapurna Devi. So today I will speak on Annapurna Ji, her approach to music, her way of teaching, and what I think distinguishes her style from other styles of music. So with your permission, I'll start that. I've also got my sitar here. It's here primarily for show purposes, but it's also there in case something is not clear and you want me to demonstrate it. But
it's already unclear.
Well, I can tell you, Sandhya ji has done a superb job in the morning session. I mean, you'll find that what I have to say here is very similar to what she talked about and what Suresh has talked about. So yes, if required, I will certainly demonstrate it. But let's do the talk first. Okay. So this I already told you about. We'll be talking about this. So this is the most important aspect of Annapurna Ji. In her own words, संगीत एक साधना है और ये साज जो है वो यंत्र है. Having said this, I don't think I need to say anything more, but we need to speak about it. So शी ऑलवेज यूज टू से रोज प्रैक्टिस करके रख देना. कुछ भी हुआ प्रैक्टिस होना चाहिए. आप पूजा करते हैं, हाँ. आप खाना खाते हैं, हाँ. तो ये पूजा के जैसे है. आप बजाइए, जितना हो सके उतना बजाइए, लेकिन रोज बजाना चाहिए. एंड दैट वाज द फर्स्ट promise that she extracted from me when I went to teach her, that never leave sitar. If you have other things, you perform your work, do everything. You may even in between stop for some time if you're not well or if you don't have the time, but never leave it. Come back in it. And that's what I have, I consider myself very fortunate to have gotten it from her, because that has made me. It's not California, it's not Berkeley, it's not electrical engineering, but it's this. So each raga is divine. It's like how you do puja of Shiva or Krishna Bhagavan or Ram. Each raga itself is divine. It has a particular form, and you, after years and years and years of practice, you begin to see the form. But the form is not some visual form which you see. It's the form of the rag. It's the sound form of the rag that you begin to slowly understand. You know, it's not a picture, or it's not some multicolored aspect or some shining things that you see. But slowly you begin to see what is the form of this raga. It becomes you. And that's why it's enough to learn just one rag in your lifetime is more than enough. But we have to know more, because these are the different forms of the divinity. And therefore there are no shortcuts in this. You can't imagine not doing a complete puja. There is a form to this rag. You can't imagine if God created you without a hand or without a finger. Would you like that? No. So same way in this. You do what you have to do and do it right. So most important now, having said this, is that this is your attitude that should pervade everything that you do with your music. Whether you're practicing on your own, whether you're practicing in front of someone, whether you're performing in public, whether you're speaking about it, but this is the basic attitude which must be there at all times. Your seriousness of purpose and your devotion is most important. That is what counts in this entire field, and that is also which may make you into a great musician. So when I started, she told me, आप बजाइए, लेकिन कब होगा वो कोई नहीं बता सकता है. आपकी तकदीर के ऊपर है. आप कैसे बजाएंगे और कब वो आएगा वो कोई नहीं बता सकता है आपको. आप सिर्फ बजाने रहिए. So what does all this mean? Does this mean that you only have to sit at home and do sadhana, you only have to practice? No. You please. She has never told you not to perform. She has never told me not to perform. In fact, she organized my first performance with in Acharya Alauddin Khan Music Circle. But whenever you play and whatever you play, this is the background which is there in your mind when you play. So that's what it means. Unfortunately, that's not the case nowadays at all times. Taiyari is most important. Without taiyari, you can't even do anything. Without taiyari in my voice, I can't even speak here. But taiyari is one aspect of it, and that is the part of the total form of the music. Next. Both Sandhya ji and Mr. Banerjee has touched upon it in the morning, that each instrument is different. Each instrument has a different baj. Vocal baj is different, sarod baj is different, sitar baj is different, violin is different. So just like human beings are different. But so each instrument has its own baj, and you try to bring out the raga using the strengths and capabilities of that instrument. So when she taught, she would teach in this way. So it's not like just a cheese is given to you, and then no matter which instrument you are playing, you रिपीट द चीज़, और गा के बता दिया काम ख़त्म हो गया, बजा के बता दिया काम ख़त्म हो गया, ऐसा नहीं है. ईच इंस्ट्रूमेंट हैज़ टू बी लर्नड इन डिटेल बाय to use that instrument, and that takes years and years and years of doing. Next. So now we come to what is it that, now we are only going to talk about sitar. We are not going to talk about anything else. So what is it that distinguishes the Mayar sitar? I mean, there are many other styles of sitar playing, and we are going to talk about within Mayar what is Annapurna ji's way of teaching of sitar. And so first thing we have to talk about is the physical characteristics of that instrument. And the most important in there is how many strings does it have, how do you tune the strings, and the importance of the jod string, that is important. So is this clear? Otherwise I'll have to go through it in detail. 13 strings below in the Mayar sitar. These are the 7 strings: Madhyam, Jod, Pancham, Kharaj Sa, Steel Pancham, Small Chikari, Big Chikari. So main string is tuned to Madhyam, Mandra Saptak Madhyam, Sa is the Mandra Saptak Sa, Ati Mandra Pancham, Ati Mandra Kharaj, Mandra Pancham, Sa, and Chikari. So of course this tuning we have done for Kalyan Thaat, and it can change depending on the rag. For example, if you are playing Madhyam Pradhan rag like Manj Khamaj, which is a famous Madhyam Pradhan rag, it's a Madhyam Pradhan rag, although it's Khamaj. Or you may be playing Malkos, or you may be playing Bageshri, then the tuning will change. Instead of there is no Pancham there, the Pancham will change to Madhyam. So we'll do it with this. And even the taraf strings will change depending on the rag that is being played. Now we come to the most important point about Mayar sitar, and that is the jod. The jod string is the one that gives you the basic sur, that is the sa. Fortunately, in sitar we have the jod strings. In sarod you don't have a jod string. So you can play sitar without a tanpura also, and it still sounds bharela and it still sounds good. But other instruments which don't have a jod string, you can't do that. So because the jod is there, you have to know how to use that jod also, and you have to incorporate it in your strokes also. The most important thing is that the jod is a fundamental string that sets the sur, basic sur, based on, and as we all know, Indian music is based on, it's not a chromatic system, but it's based on although there are if you put all the notes together, all the shrutis together, it will cover all the chromatic system as well. But the notes, everything is relating to a fundamental note, which is the sa. Next. So what you should know is here, so because you have all these strings, they're not just for the sake of being there. You have to be able to play on them. And you have to be able to play what is right for them. Again, my tayari is not all that much just now, but you have to be able to play on all of them. And the Kharaj and Pancham are there for primarily for alap purposes and jala purposes. So I should have started in the slow speed and then picked up, but that's the way she teaches. Whatever you play, first play in slow speed, and all the teaching is done only in slow speed. And while you're practicing in that slow speed, concentrate on the tone, concentrate on the accuracy, concentrate on the overall sound quality of the note. Why do you do this? Because it has to sit in your head. And if you just do fast hand practice, it doesn't sit in your head. Sit in your head means not just physically sit in your head, but the note and the pattern has to be embedded in your head. Once that is done, then you can do whatever you want to do and play whatever you want to play. But if you only practice for taiyari purposes, then the essential qualities of the rag don't seep into your head. So you'll be playing, you'll be moving your fingers. And as you used to say, let the rag determine how your fingers move, not the other way around. And so if you practice only for taiyari, that's what happens. And you can make, you take shortcuts, you make compromises, and nobody can even make out that you've done that, because it's going so fast. So even you're only looking at the outer form of it, So that is important. And practice for taiyari is different. Once you get this down very slowly with correct accuracy, the way she is satisfied, then she would go in for practice with taiyari. And practice with taiyari is very simple. You start with the base speed and double it. Then double that. Then double that. Keep going. That's your speed. Is as simple as that. So that's not what you start with. Okay. Next. Incidentally, that also tells you what Dugun Lai is all about, and that also sets your Lai in order. So important here is that because you have all these strings, you need to be careful what you strike. And a main point is that you are striking only that string which is supposed to be struck, on which the note is. Don't just strike all the strings like in a guitar. You're not supposed to. ये सब नहीं जमेगा इधर. Each string has to be struck because it is meant to be struck. And each note is played because it's meant to be played. And you only play the notes on that string. So I think Sandhya did a superb job of that in demonstrating that. Only exception is the jod. We'll come to that later. And there's a second thing that most people, even seasoned musicians, go through, and that is pick up the sitar, कुछ idea आया है, so try करेगा. And that is now picking up the fashion also. ऐसा नहीं होता है. जो आइडिया आएगा वो जो सीखा है उसमें से ही आइडिया नया आएगा और उसको बढ़ाना है और उसमें से नया आइडिया आएगा ही. So just to think that I have got a new idea and start going with that and think that this is something, this is not done in her style of teaching. Next. Incidentally, this idea thing is very big nowadays, not just in music, it's there in everything. I mean, in the movies, so all creative work means you have to have ideas. Because if you don't have ideas, you're not an artist, you're not in creative work. But this is not just creative work, it's spiritually creative work, So if God has an idea to make another human being, I mean, he won't just say, चलो एक idea आ गया, उसको एक आँख के बिना हम human being बना देंगे, ऐसा तो नहीं होता है. So, sorry to say something, some people may consider it blasphemous, but that's what it is. Okay, so now we have gone through this part of it. Now what are the basic hand positions? The hands must be rounded like this. Don't spread out your hands. Don't let your hands go out like this. no matter what speed you're playing with, if you have to play kirtans, your hands will spread out, but then the approach would be always to bring them back into a rounded position. And not only your hands and fingers have to be rounded, but your entire arm should be rounded. I mean, there's no point things sticking out. And if you think about what was said in the morning about Drupad is a rounded form of music. There are no jhatkas, matkas, no things that go very rapidly from one to the other. So that is reflected in your physical form also while you are playing. It should be. So your hand should be rounded, what you say should be rounded, what music you play should be rounded. Don't go from one note to another rapidly. All that is incorporated. And the roundedness must be there in both the left hand as well as the right hand. राइट हैंड ऐसा नहीं बजा सकते, एक उंगली से कभी मत बजाना, दो उंगली से कभी मत बजाना, पूरा हाथ से पूरी उंगली घूमनी चाहिए. Why is all this? Just for the sake of saying it? No. Because with this, your tone becomes different. The balance in your playing becomes different. And even physically, if your hands are stretched all the time while you're playing, it's a far more stretch on your muscles and far more stress and strain on your muscles while you're playing and your tendons. So it's even a more efficient way of playing. So this is her basic. Believe it or not, I used to, as you heard, I had learned from several people and my hands were going all over the place. So I spent a year with her. So first fundamental thing, you have to forget everything that you have learned and you start fresh with me. So, okay, I really wanted to learn, so there's no question about denying that. First thing she did was for 1 year, tied my hands with rubber bands, tight rubber bands, and just play. At this speed, with rubber bands tied tightly, no faster. Not just for the to go, but also all the muchanas and all the hand practices. So, if you do it this way, then all your past habits do go away. They vanish. And you are reprogrammed to play in her style. Let us, in today's technology world, that sense will make more sense, So, that is her. If you have come from another gharana, or if you learn from many other people, then you first forget everything else, because otherwise it's not possible for you. It's not possible for you to play what she tells you to play. And I think some people here who are playing sitar will vouch for that. If he's still there, I don't know. I have had students who came to me to learn sitar, and he was not used to thinking in these terms. His hand was great. I mean, he had some surs in his command also. He had a great speed. He had practiced only for Tayyari. But when I told him to play these alap phrases of Annapurna Devi, he just couldn't do it. Because he told me then that the way my mind is used to thinking is I am not used to thinking of the music in this way. I am not used to thinking in these terms. So then we gave up in frustration, because I didn't put him through this routine. If I had put him through this routine for 1 to 1.5 years, he would have forgotten everything else and come in this way. But that's why Annapurna ji insists on doing it this way. Next we come to the strokes. A lot of times you find that the strokes are haphazard, dar, 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 da, aisa nahi, da, 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 da. Both da and ra are equal strokes. Then da is with main string and jod. Jod has to sound. And ra is only main string. So dara will be da with main string and ra only, da with both strings and ra only main string. Not. Not this. All the strings are striking. No. Da. The George should sound only on the da stroke. Okay. No matter what speed you play at, Ra only on the main string. And I think Sarod people would be quite familiar with that. They have to play only on one string and they have to strike only that string. But it's easy to lose track of and lose control on the sitar, And of course, there's Diri. So Diri is. This is Diri. So on the Da stroke, the George string sounds. On the Diri strokes, only the main string sounds. So this is the basic training that you go through before starting any rag, And you do all this because you want a certain tonal quality. You don't want to fill the entire sound with jankar. All this should be avoided. So next. So what is it that you play with all these strokes and all that? Well, this I'm sure most of you will be familiar with. She starts off only in Kalyan Thaat, and the first thing you play is Murchanas. Per to per and back again. Like that, and so what do you get out of playing these murchanas? Again, couple of things. One is your hand gets used to what does an octave sounds like. 8, what does you play it with tal, so you know what does 8 bowls sound like, and all that forms an impression in your mind about so that you can use it while you're actually playing the music. And there are 3 different murchanas. One is this one. This is the second murchana. The third one. Yeah. 3 murchana, 3 different types of murchanas. Paltas, bowls and jala. So paltas basically 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. There are lots of people who teach many different kinds of paltas. They can go on and on and on in paltas. In fact, you can have an entire course on paltas. But she teaches these basic 3 paltas, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 paltas. And explicitly she told me this, that हम ऐसे ही सिखाएंगे आपको, जो भी कुछ कॉम्प्लिकेटेड पैटर्न बजाना होगा तो तान में बजाइए आप. Everyone, do you want me to go through all these? If you, okay, then four everyone will know, 5, 6, and 7. Kirtans, these are all parts of the Mayar Gharana tradition, which both Sandhya ji and everyone else. So gamak, this is gamak, and that is the same when you practice fast. So you finish this. And practice of taiyar is precisely this. Whatever you play at the base speed, then double the speed. But every time you double, it must be clear and must sound good. Not you can't gloss over it. Like I don't even know how to play that, but many people, if you hear, they play at such resound, at such a fast speed, but you can't hear the individual notes at all. It's just the hand is moving. It's like a sitar gym instead of a sitar program. So this is basic hand practice and what she taught in hand practice. Then she will teach you each raga, and in each raga, she will teach you in exactly the same way in which you would perform it. So everything is in the sequence. It's not that एक चीज़ दे दिया फिर थोड़ी देर के बाद आया फिर दूसरा चीज़ दे दिया, ऐसा नहीं. If you sit and play a rag in performance, then what is the sequence in which you will play? Each alap is taught in detail. Each jod phrase is taught in detail. And you have to play it to her complete satisfaction until it sits in your head and you know it. You have internalized it. It's not like you are sitting and imitating someone. A lot of people, when they teach, and particularly if you learn from YouTube, lots of people learn from YouTube, is that you see someone playing, you see the hand movement and you pick that up. But inside of that, what is going on, you will never be able to get because you have not done it yourself. If you do it yourself, then you will know the insides and outs of it and you will know how to do it and what has to be done. If you're just imitating, it's an imitation. एक कान से आया, दूसरे कान से निकल गया या तो हाथ से निकल गया. Matter ends. And it's not even the correct thing that you may be playing. There are a lot of compromises that you do while you're imitating. And because it's easy to do on a sitar, because the sitar has got frets, the sitar has got, as opposed to sarod doesn't have frets, violin doesn't have frets. So it's not that you have to have at least some basic idea of sur before you start imitating something on sarod or violin. But on sitar, you don't even have to know that. You just look at what the hand is going and you play it. And you think you're doing it and you think you're doing it well, but really you can't do anything else. And what you're doing is also not right. Now, each alap she used to teach. So that's the alap. Each note has to, of the rag, which are the notes where you wait, which are the notes which you show. In Yaman, of course, Ni, we all know, is the most important note. Pancham is the place for waiting. So you wait at the right notes, for the right amount of time, you show those notes and use those other notes to really bring out those notes, So her entire alap for every rag is like this, And there is no need to hurry, as Sandhya ji says. There's no need to rush through things and play. These are the differences. Now, the reason that happened is because I was not clear in my mind what I was going to play. So sometimes when you lose that concentration, your finger can slip. So that also shows the importance of why everything has to be clear in your mind when you are playing. Okay, slips happen, mistakes happen, but they happen because your mind is not on it at all times. So important point about Mayar Gharana is, at least the way she taught me, is that each alap you start with sa, each alap. Don't start in between, because that's the basic sur of and when you wind up an alap. Don't keep on going off to infinity. Finish an alap, do an alap, show what alap you're doing, and wind it. Wind it up, and when you wind it up, it's called the mora. This is the way we wind up each alap, Different gharanas have different moras for winding up an alap. They have very long moras, but we have a pretty short mora, So I think we have been through all of this. Pancham and Jod things. So, without the Pancham, Kharaj Pancham and Kharaj Sa strings, you really can't play the alap. It's not a technical point. That's the strength of the Mayar Gharana. And best alap comes out on those strings, as does the Jod. So I think that is one point that we need to understand. There are Gharanas that don't have that. And they tune their sitars differently. But they say they are playing alap. Yes, you are playing alap. But this is the real alap as far as we are concerned.
The mohara, what note you play?
Sa, chick, chick, sani, sa, nire, ni, sa. So each alap has to be resolved. It has to come to its end. Then you start the next alap. You can't just keep going from one alap to another. And please start with sa. I mean, a lot of people, they will start, say, you're playing Yaman. First, they start with Chikari, which is totally not the done thing. It's not done in our Gharana. Okay. So after the Jod is, okay, let's go back the previous slide, please. So this is Jod, and this is the speed for the Jod. 1, and this is the life for the Jod also. 1, 2, 1, 2. This is the basic life for the Jod. Then you can play fast. And Jod is primarily only da stroke. So all of this is played in Jod also, and there has been some controversy regarding can you play in Jod. I have been taught that you can also play tihais and you can also play tans, and you have to play according to the trital. Yes, you can do that. So what is the tal of Jod? I checked when I was told this. I checked with Annapurna ji that is there any tal in Jod, and she explicitly told me Jod ka ek do, ek do, ek do. This is the tal for Jod. Yes, if you want, you can play an entire tan in Jod. Yes, if you want, you can play tihais in Jod. And if you want to come on some in tihai in Jod, then you just have to come on the one. But up to now, I have not heard either Pandit Ravi Shankar ji or Ali Akbar Khan Sahab or any of the big stalwarts of Mayhar Gharana playing Jod with, say, Trital or Ektal, but without the tabla. I have never heard that.
But he has taught us. He has taught us with Pakhwat. Generally in Jod portion, it is being played with Chautal. The Jod style.
Okay, so that must be Alauddin Khan Sahab's style.
Yeah, that is the style. I mean, actually, Roviji also played. Several recordings are available.
Oh, okay.
Of course, in Chautal. And what happens when there was no chikari in sitar, like in Jaipur style? What happened? How would have they played the Jod and all these things?
I have no idea. There's no yeah.
You have to hear Barkatullah Khan's record.
Okay.
It's probably available in YouTube.
It's fine, okay. Yeah, great,
Because
okay.
Chikari was introduced only in the 19th century.
I see, okay.
Yeah.
But we are talking about today's music, no?
Yeah, so that's why, I mean, that's also an important aspect again for to discuss.
Okay, but Alauddin Khan Sahab has himself played Jod in various tals.
I mean, he taught him, we never heard him. But,
But recording, some recordings or something.
We learned in that way.
This is the way we've been taught. And after hearing this, I checked with her again. And she again told me, ek, do, ek, do.
वो तो है, लेकिन जो जोड़ बजते हैं पखवाज के साथ वो चौताल में होता है।
वो
हाँ, गड़ ना,
सितार पखवाज के साथ बजाते थे. अच्छा.
रवि जी का बहुत सारे हैं. पूर्वी कल्याण का एक है, छाया कल्याण में रिकॉर्डिंग है.
My history stands to be corrected. बोल. So this is the bowl which is played at the end of every jod and thokja. Mora is played in thokjala also. So this is the Thok Jala. So I think we have covered most of it, you know. Let's go fast now. This is it. So then, of course, each you play Vistar. When you start off with the Gat usually starts with a Vistar. In the Gat itself, you play. It's like an alap, but you play with tal and you wind up with proper tihas, like how you do it in khayals. You wind up with proper tihais and then pick up the mukrar of the gat. You know? यहाँ लय से अलग हो जाने का. ऐसा. So pick up. You play the gat, various, and each note again you elaborate on it with a vistar, you know. After that, of course, there are chans. Chans are important here, and she used to teach chans 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So in the three, if you are playing in trital, per matra you get in 3 notes, you know. And सात का chand also is there, 7 notes chand. 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 or 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2. So all of those you can have tans based on that, you can have todas based on that. So all of those are elaborated on during the performance. As Sandhya ji pointed out, there is a lot of the compositions are quite complex. So there's the jamjama and krintan, and all of that is part of the gat. Okay. And the entire performance should be full of meaning, should be full. It should not sound one-dimensional. The whole point is that one way of practicing is that you only pick up a tan and just keep going on and on in that tan. Or you pick up, you get tayari only in certain tans. Certain tans you play, then you make tihais based on those tans, you make other things, break up the tan, do that. That is one way of playing. And with that you can get immense speed. But in the tan, if you have to incorporate jamjama, if you have to incorporate mind, if you have to incorporate some bowls, then the whole picture changes. You can't get that kind of speed in the tan, And that is what she wanted, that everything you play should be rich. It should not be one-dimensional. Okay. Her way of teaching, Sandhya ji has already spoken about, so I won't speak much on that. So she used to teach by singing and by telling you how to da da diri da 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 diri diri da 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 diri da da da. So you're supposed to be all the bowls are taught, all the notes are there in the while she says only, and you pick up that and play that. Importance of this is that you don't imitate anything. You have to know all the intricacies. You have to understand the intricacies and pick it up and play it. That's the only way that you will be able to really internalize the music. Okay. Okay. So the important point here is that makes you produce the music yourself. You have to produce the music by listening to her, by hearing her singing, by knowing what she means. You have to internalize it and play it. That's the way. So that's the approach by which you build up your own style instead of just an imitation style. हो गया? और है तो जरा फटाफट कर देना. Let them just read, and if something. Oh, there are some important points here. Which I would like to talk about. Just 2 minutes. 2 points I think we need to talk about. One is chikari, use of chikari, and the other one is andolan and use of andolan. So chikari, you don't start a phrase with a chikari. You end a phrase with a chikari, or you give a chikari as a filler in between. But if you start the phrase with a chikari, then the sound gets lost in the chikari itself, We are not starting with the chikari, so you don't do. In our gharana, this doesn't make any sense, playing in this way. Start a phrase precisely, properly, without chikari, strike the string first, and then use the chikari as a filler. Second important thing is that we need to talk about andolans. So take an andolan before you transition to the next phrase. But the way you transition is you come back, first you must touch the note. This note must be heard clearly. No andolan. No andolan. Now andolan. So take the andolan, come back to the note which you are on, and then transition to the next note. So these are some techniques which are imbibed into you, and that's what brings the whole tonal quality and the seriousness and the depth into the music. Yeah. So you have to, all this you can read about. There's nothing much to demonstrate here. Finger should follow the rag, all that. The last point here is important, that in alap, if you can play an alap without using any strokes at all, it's the best. But you can't do that, so you use as few strokes as possible, very few strokes. It should be, sound must be continuous and rounded. This I'm sure Nityanand ji will vouch for, and everyone else who's learned from her, that when you start playing the first phrase that you play, you have to capture the attention. It should say something. It should not just be a combination of notes. And it should be true to the rag. I mean, you should be able to make out that, ये तो यमन बजा रहा है, ये तो भागेश्वरी बजा रहा है, ये तो मियाँ मल्हार बजा रहा है. You should be able to you should use that combination of notes and properly, so that it brings out the characteristic of the rag. Then you do a detailed elaboration of every note. This is another one that some of my students found really great difficulty in, that a lot of our phrases are complex, even in alap, where one phrase is embedded into another phrase. And every part of it should be audible. You can't play. No. This is an important point of Annapurna ji's insistence, that when you play sapat tans should dana dana ki taan honi chahiye. I mean, it should not be हाथ घिस के लिया और राइट हैंड एकदम जोर स्पीड से बहुत फास्ट बजा लिया और हाथ लेफ्ट हैंड घिस गया और तान निकल गया. सिर्फ तबले के ऊपर ध्यान रखने का और राइट हैंड के ऊपर ध्यान रखने का, ऐसा नहीं जमता है. Jhala, I think this is the last point I'll just demonstrate. Her Jhala and Sandhya brought this out very clearly. The left hand does its work and the right hand does its work. So left hand is doing alap, actually is playing something like alap and a lot of mean work in there, and the right hand is playing Jhala. No emphasis on speed. Sometimes you might have to play 8 strokes because the left hand is doing its work. It is not like... Not like that. I think you understood the speed is not for, the emphasis is not on speed, but playing all the notes in a rounded way so that you're playing mean with the left hand and jala with the right hand. And sometimes each mean can take several notes. So you should not rush over those notes. I think some people will tell you how difficult it is to do that, because I think most of the points are covered. Covered. Let's go now. Let's finish. All the points are covered. So emphasis should be on sur and bhav. Emphasis should be on a total rendition of the rag. Emphasis should be on bringing out the entire quality of the rag, an entire form of the rag. And it should not be a one-dimensional performance where you are performing under very ferocious speeds and very fast tabla, and very loud sound. I mean, I'm sure many people have learned to play with, nowadays a lot of people play with one tabla, two tablas, one tabla, one pakhavaj, sawal jawab. All that is great for entertainment purposes. But from her point of view, what is required is this, So sorry if I have bored you and overstepped my time considerably. Huh? Sorry? No, again, my hands require to be heated, warmed up,
I have a question about your sitar. What about
Yeah, bolo.
about your instrument?
Yeah.
It's unusual at the top. The cookies are
Yeah, I did that. Yeah. Absolutely, you are absolutely right. I mean, these are guitar pegs that are fixed on top, but they're fixed as an extension. So if I ever want to remove them, I just remove these. They are just separate wooden pieces which are shaped and then screwed onto that, and they're screwed on only into exact spaces where the original pegs were. So I can remove them and then revert back to whatever I want to. But the reason I've done this is because it really helps in tuning. I mean,
it stays there also.
it stays there, it helps in tuning, and you can get a really fine tuning with that,
Can I have a look later on?
Yeah, sure, you're most welcome. The guy who did it for me lives in Mumbai only, Manish.
Oh, I know.
I know him. Tell him to do it for you. He did a great job.
In Mayyar Gharana, you don't play murkis?
You do play, yes, of course you play. But in the Dhrup, here I have not mentioned it, you are 100% correct. Of course you play murki, and particularly if you are playing thumri or a lighter rag, of course you will play murki. But since whole focus is, just now we have been talking about Dhrupad, and she of course she teaches murki, but if you think about it, the Dhrupad way of taking a murki is just a slow version of that murki. This is the Dhrupad version of it, and this is the murki version of it. Dhrupad version. All this vanishes in murki. This is not a murki. None of these are murkis. But of course you play murkis, and of course she never stopped you from playing murkis, but depends on what you're playing and what is the effect that you want to create. Of course you play murkis. Murkis are the krintans. Krintans are Kirtanic form of murkis. Yeah, I'll show it to you later on. Let the thing proceed. Sorry, Nityanand. Most sorry. Sorry about that.